A change to the state's homestead exemption law this year is causing confusion for some property owners in Travis County. Now, the KVUE defenders first alerted you to this issue back in January.
The Travis County Central Appraisal District, or TCAD, is doing what it can to educate homeowners. Investigative reporter Jenny Lee spoke with the chief appraiser about what they're doing and what they plan to do about tricky situations like new construction.
First, let's get the fundamentals out of the way. A homestead exemption in Texas removes part of your home's value from taxation, so they lower your taxes. It's a tax break. Starting January 1st of this year, homeowners can file for that homestead exemption in the year they bought their home instead of waiting until the following year. That's the change. So if you bought a house in March of 2022,
it prorates as of the date that they start occupying their new home.
You don't have to wait until the next year to start saving money. That's according to Travis Central Appraisal District's chief appraiser, Maria Krigler. Now, let's go over the general rules in order to qualify for the new homestead exemption. Again, the home must be purchased on or before January 1st of 2022. It has to be your principal place of residence. You have to own it and you have to live there. Let's pause for a moment on this one because this one can be tricky for new builds. So let's get back to that in a bit. And you can only claim one homestead exemption for one property per tax year. And Krigler says this next rule has been giving some home buyers some problems. The property cannot already have a general residence homestead exemption for the year.
It's been confusing for them understanding that if the previous owner had claimed an exemption, you can't claim it on this property. And what we do for property owners, if they call us and they're thinking about filing the exemption, we'll look it up for you and tell you whether or not the previous owner was filing that exemption.
A lot of people have purchased new construction. So how does this new homestead exemption rule affect them? What about home improvements? How much of those improvements need to be completed? Krigler says there is no percentage, and it comes down to being able to prove you live in that house.
If there is a question of if we don't think the house is being occupied, then property owners can provide us their certificate of occupancy, or they can provide us copies of utility bills to prove up that they are actually occupying the property. So it really is, again, it really is a question of are you actually living in the home so that you can claim that as your homestead exemption.
We want to make sure everyone who's eligible gets the exemptions and gets that benefit.
TCAD held a webinar going over the new change in March. It's on its website. The appraisal district is also sending out a new flyer this month explaining the prorated homestead exemptions, all to educate and save taxpayers as much money as possible. For the KVUE Defenders, I'm Jenny Lee.
Thank you, Jenny. And one final thing to remember, when submitting your application for exemption, make sure your driver's license is up to date. Krigler says the address on the property owner's license must match the property you're claiming the exemption on. The official deadline to file for a homestead exemption is April 30th, but property owners can file for a late application up to 2 years later.